What's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah. Before we jump in, why don't you just introduce yourself real quick? Because I'm meeting you for the first time right now. So yeah, for everyone listening.
Absolutely. So, my name is Dr. Robert Bednars. So, a little bit behind my background, I was born and raised in New Jersey, and then I went to medical school in Wrocław, Poland, and I went there because my whole family's Polish, my background's Polish. I can speak Polish as well. But I did go to an English division part of the university, and it's great. I totally recommend it. And then after going through med school in Poland, I went to Scotland in August of 2019. So I am a freshly new junior doctor in Scotland, UK, currently right now.
Amped up, ready to go. Yeah, man. So
Yeah, I'm going to be, so currently I am in self-isolation mode.
Yeah.
Because last week I had annual leave, so I had a week off and I went to go visit my family in Poland. And I left Poland. I came back to Scotland one day before they announced a lockdown in Poland, so I was able to get out. And upon coming back, I started developing some symptoms of what coronavirus might be. If the people listening don't know, this is going to be a coronavirus episode.
Yes, it is.
And I still have this lingering cough, but I'm not convinced that it's coronavirus. But they're not testing staff currently. I think it's changing, hopefully. And I had to be self-isolated for a week, so I've been cooped up in this apartment for the last week and just kind of guesting on interviews, podcasts, and trying to catch up on some reading.
Yeah, man. It's because since like January, I've been trying to get any medical professional to come on and talk about coronavirus, because this is still when it was, relatively small. And I called the CDC in Atlanta and they didn't even return a call. I was straight to voicemail. I was like, okay, they're probably swamped. So I called Emory in Atlanta, no response. So then I just started to like go on Reddit and just find like physicians. I was like, I don't even care if you're like an epidemiologist, or I was like, I want to get like a medical, just someone, because me or my friends talking about it, we're just idiots talking, right? So there's no professional level to anything we're saying. It's all bro science. So I saw your post and it was
that's a good way to post it. Yeah, bro science.
It is like, hey, dude, I heard that it does this. Or, I heard that too. Yeah, no, it's just it's just all bullshit. Yeah, and then just I literally was about to go to bed and I was scrolling through Reddit and I just like fell into my lap. It was like, hey, I'm a newly graduated doctor, and would anyone like to have me on their podcast to talk about coronavirus? And I was like, it's my lucky day. And I was like, all right. So two things led to another, and we are here right now. So,
yeah, and since you're recording the video, I usually have a beard. I have a stubble now, but I usually have a beard, but I have to shave it just so when since I'm going to be part of the COVID team back in the hospital, which I volunteered for, which I'm excited for, I just haven't been able to get back to work.
Yeah.
I have to be completely shaven so I can get those masks fully sealed around my mouth so I can keep myself safe from their virus. Yeah.
Yeah. So just enough of me talking and my bro science, because no one's tuning in to listen to me.
What do you want to know?
I was gonna say at the with like 5 minutes left, because I saw you had a podcast. I was like, we can jump into that. But yeah, for what, as a medical professional, what's going on? Is this the end, or is this bad but it's manageable? Is it, should it be lock and loaded? Should I be, calling a priest? Should I just be doing self-isolation, washing my hands? And, that's what I've been doing. I've been exercising in my driveway. I've been staying inside, washing hand sanitizer, just not interacting with anyone, just doing podcasts all week.
Right.
So what's going on?
Everything that you just said, some things you're doing right. Some things are not necessary. Some things are, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'll get right into it. Okay. I'll just try to throw as many facts as you can, and whatever questions you have after me, shoot them. In terms of how bad is this and how long is it going to last? I hate the people on the news where they're just like saying this is going to last for 3 months, it's going to last for 6 months, it's going to last for 18 months, it's going to last for however many years, It's frustrating because the truth is we don't know. We really don't know how long this can last, because a lot of it is basically what I like to say is how much faith you have in humanity will be how good this virus will come out to you. So it's really important. It's a huge role, yes, on the doctors and the nurses and everybody in the hospital. It's a huge role on the people too. It's like, please, if you guys practice social distancing and also self-isolating if you have symptoms, or just staying inside and only going out if you absolutely need to, that lowers the burden on us so much. It really will. And there's so much to talk about this whole coronavirus. I know we can go on forever, and we're a bit limited, but the most important thing is this quote that's been tossed around in social media and stuff like that, this flatten the curve. And what that means is there's a line of how much resources we have in hospitals in terms of respirators, ventilators, doctors, nurses, workforce. There's a point where, we're already at like a certain percentage of our capacity. And once that reaches the max and we're having more patients coming in, it's going to be like Italy. And if you see what's going on in Italy, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible what's going on in Italy, where they're getting to a point where they have to pick and choose who's going to live and who's going to die, because they just don't have enough resources to save everybody. So it's just like, if someone's coming in, let's say you got two people coming in, right? And you have one that's got a lot of comorbidities like ischemic heart disease, you have diabetes, you have COPD, some kind of lung disease, and you have another person with coronavirus who is relatively healthy. They're probably going to shoot for that one instead of the other one if they have to pick and choose, because they're like, they have to say, like, unfortunately, you already have all these comorbidities. You have a less of a chance to survive, and we got to go with this one now. And it sucks. We don't want to get to that point, because in a normal hospital, those two would be able to come in and both of them would have a fighting chance. And that's what we're really afraid of. That's, besides the whole global infrastructure that's just absolutely crumbling at the moment. We're not worried about that. We're more worried about just making sure everybody gets a chance to live, and it's getting to a point where doctors are getting stretched out so much that they're not able to function at 100% all the time. They're getting tired. They're practically living at the hospitals. And like, for me, for example, I feel useless, but on the other hand, I'm doing my part in staying inside for the whole week, making sure I don't put anybody at risk, no matter what virus I have. I might not have the coronavirus, but I could have respiratory syncytial virus, or I might have rhinovirus, or I might whatever. I just don't want to. It's really important. The social distancing and self-isolation is so important. I know in the U.S. they just locked down a few states. I know New Jersey just got locked down. California. Where I'm originally from, New York has been locked down pretty much, and that's great. That's so great. But it sucks that this is all happening in like waves. So it's like China did its lockdown, and now it's doing fine, and it's kind of going towards Europe. I know Poland's in lockdown. The UK just announced its lockdown yesterday, and now the States slowly, not a national lockdown, but states are kind of deciding when to lock down. And unfortunately it's not good enough, because you're going to have somebody traveling from one state to another, and these cases just keep going up. So if you're looking right now at the numbers, I think we're at currently, so today is the 21st of March, and it's 7:15 p.m. in Scotland time. And you're looking at about 300,000 cases confirmed. And of those, it's about 13,000 deaths, more or less. So you're looking at about a 4.2% mortality rate. However, that's not, it's a scary number and a not scary number, depending which aspect you're looking at it. But we're not testing everyone because it's not necessary. Because, for example, let's say you've got a cough and a fever, right, Tommy? Mm-hmm. And you call up the GP or PCP, whatever you call it. You call up your doctor. You're like, hey, I got these symptoms. What do I do? They're going to tell you to stay home. There's no reason to test you. The only reason why they should test you is for statistic reasons, just to see the numbers afterwards. The only reason they really should be testing you is if you get too sick, to the point where your breathing has been a problem for you, you can't breathe normally, we'll send you to the hospital, and we're going to test you to see if we need to isolate you or not, because we only have so many isolation rooms. So we have to make that decision to keep everybody, because you also have to remember, in the hospitals, we're not just worried about coronavirus. we still have cancer, heart failure, lung problems, any other infectious diseases. Like, we're still functioning as a normal hospital.
That
Don't
stuff
forget
didn't
that.
pause,
And on top, and everyone also, what's pissing me off too is everyone saying like, it's not bad, it's not as bad as the flu. By the way, the flu is still out there too.
Yeah, it's on top of it. It's
on top of the flu.
Yeah. So are car crashes. Like, it's still happening. All that shit is still happening. Yeah, it's. But I was gonna say you are doing your part in staying home. I've seen more just through my limited social circle online. I can just see like getting to a point where it's like no longer just like, okay, the news is saying, it's like, it's what's really helping is like friends fucking with friends, being like, hey, dumbass, stop posting from the bar, go home. And everyone's like, fuck you, Bob, go home. And they're finally like, fine, all right. But like, that's helping is because, there's only so many people that are going to listen to, the news, man, you should stay home tonight. And it's just like, yeah, but we should also eat our vegetables. Like, whatever. It's when friends are like, hey, asshole, like, stay home. And it's okay. And like, I've had friends just like posting funny shit. One of my friends just like loves sports more than anyone I know in my life. And he's posting videos of they're like betting on sports, but they're running like Madden simulations on their Xbox. And so they're like running it live on the TV and they're like throwing down money and drinking. And it's just like making the most of coronavirus. And these are people with no medical education, but it's like, okay, if you can see that on Snapchat or on Instagram, it starts to saturate a little more. And it's like, okay, everyone is doing it. And like, you can almost kind of, not to make light of it, but make light of it. Be like, all right, you're whatever, we're 29, we're not at risk, but like, okay, like we can drink and watch Madden games on Xbox 360. It'll be a good story one day.
That's awesome. That's really creative,
and you're doing your part right now, man. Just like having this podcast, I'm going to post it to, again, my limited audience, but still just having a medical professional being like the first thing, just being like, stay home.
Yeah.
That's,
exactly.
I mean, that will do something.
There's a lot of cool things that's coming out of this because I really love this line where limitations provoke creativity. So now that people are forced to stay home, more or less, they're trying to figure out ways that can keep them occupied. And just like the Madden simulation, that's awesome. Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah.
It's a new way. They just created something absolutely new from nothing. They're like, let's just start betting on Madden simulations.
Yeah, they put the controllers down and they just watch it.
It's really so another thing, like I love like hearing the good stories out of it, but for example, my university in Poland, for example, they didn't have an e-learning contingency plan in case something like this happened. So the students were actually able to get together and be like, hey, there's this Discord app that we can use where teachers can just log on. You don't need an email. You just kind of make a profile and then you can have classes this way, and that's already up and going. So it's like, I really, even though it's as serious as this SARS COVID outbreak, whatever you want to call it, I really hate the name, by the way. So, because it should be called SARS-2, because it's exactly the same, more or less, than the SARS pandemic that we had in 2002.
Okay.
It's just like any sequel or reboot, it's worse.
Yeah.
So it's
lower budget, made in China. Yeah, it's
like it sucks. People should be taken seriously, but people also shouldn't be panicking. You know, even if your house is on fire, Tommy, you shouldn't be panicking. That's not going to solve anything. You know, you have to just be alert, you know, and aware of what you're doing. Don't be anxious about it. Just try to be smart about what you're doing. Don't go out and just, you know, take all the toilet paper from supermarkets and hand sanitizer. So that was one thing you brought up that was interesting, because a lot of people are buying so much hand sanitizer, right? And I get it, like, it's killing 99.99% of germs on your hands. The best thing is soap and water, man.
Oh yeah,
it really is. Like, even in med school, where there's a certain way to wash your hands. Like, first you gotta get both palms like this, then you gotta get the back of your hands like that, then you gotta do this, whatever you want to call this, then get your thumbs and then your nails, and it takes about 20 to 30 seconds, and the soap and water is gonna not kill the viruses, but at least wash away all the bacteria and germs. And if you're home, that's the best thing to use. If you're near a bathroom, that's the best thing to use is soap and water. The only time you should be using hand sanitizer is if you're out somewhere and, like, let's say you're at a restaurant and you don't want to go to the bathroom and you're about to eat a burger that you're going to use your hands for. Yeah, okay, some hand sanitizer is going to work for that, you know. But soap and water, you don't need to buy out stores as hand sanitizers and sell it on the black market.
Yeah, fuck those people.
Soap and water is enough at home. It's definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, and what I found, for me, is like what's keeping me from going just batshit insane is I go out in the morning and I walk around the neighborhood. The loop is exactly 1 mile, and I do a couple sets of push-ups in my driveway. Anything to just still, like, get your blood flow. It makes being cooped up so much less worse, because you when you come back in and you've done your exercise, it still has, like, it's almost like your body doesn't know the difference between, like, that and, like, having gone out and, like, played basketball with, like, friends. It's still like you get this, like, oh, you come inside, you know, it's whatever, if it's colder, it's hotter, you know, you're smelling the grass and the leaves, and for all intents and purposes, you're walking out of the sunlight, your body's like, we just came in from a long day. And it's like, no, we didn't, but it kind of feels the same. And that's what I found has kept me sane, is just, like, some sort of exercise. And just another thing I've done is just, you know, pay attention to the quarantine dates, the times, how long you need to stay inside. But aside from that, turn off the news. Get off Reddit. Don't sit there and just eat it up. I was, for the first 2 days, I was like, oh God, we're shutting down the border. Oh God, it's the end of oh God. And then I was just like, what am I doing? You know, what am I doing? What can I do? I can stay home. Yeah, I can stay home. We're not hoarding. I can stay home. I can do podcasts. I can exercise, get a good night's sleep, stay healthy. I got an Xbox, thank God. And it's like, just do that. Aside from that, I can't affect anything outside of that. I'm not a medical professional. I don't own a business. I don't have, you know, I'm not a mover and shaker in industry. I can't take precautions. What can I do? I can isolate myself. And what else can I do? I can acknowledge that there's nothing else I can do. So just chill the fuck out. Turn off the news. Just turn it off. Yeah. Yes.
What a hero. Seriously.
Just turn it off. Just chill out.
And that's all we're asking from the community. Yeah. Is just like, just be like, and just like you, it's fine to go out. Like some people have this idea, like they're so scared that they're just stocking up for the apocalypse and they have to stay inside and that's it, you know? Yeah, you know, but the thing is you can go out. You can, if you need to go grocery shopping, the grocery stores are still open, you know, for emergencies as well. You can go for that run, for that walk, but just be alert. Don't get too close to other people. Social distancing, that's important too.
When other people are walking, it's funny because you'll see us both on the side of the road and like someone will go on the other and it's just like you wave, but it's like, yeah, but you still see people out jogging and shit, and it's just like, yeah, you might look a little crazy doing push-ups in your driveway in the rain, but yeah, fuck it, you know, it's the least crazy thing going on right now. So, you know, you can blend in. Right now, you can blend in. No one's batting an eye on that because the sky's falling. So, yeah, and like you said, it's okay, yeah, it's like the infrastructure's falling, the economy is falling, but it's like, dude, it's happening to the whole world. It's not like one nation. It's happening to the whole world, so it's like no one's getting ahead. So it's like, it's almost like that fell, and it's not like you got to worry about that and quarantining. It's like that fell because of quarantining. So just do this right now, do it correctly now, and that will come back. That is an effect of this. So do this correctly. You know, it's like, I mean, as you know, it's like take a class once, don't drop it, or you're gonna have to take it again. It's like study once, no matter how much it sucks. Study once, C's, get degrees, just pass. And it's like, that's what we can do right now. It's just do it correctly now, or this is going to be a months and years thing.
It sucks because if there was one person that, you know, in a whatever, a utopian, I don't know what kind of world you want to call it, but if one person just made serious decisions for the whole world, and if this outbreak were to happen and just told everybody to stay inside for 2 weeks, this would have all been over. Yeah. If everybody in the world stayed home for 2 weeks, all over. All over. Yeah. That's it, you know? But because of, like I said earlier, there's different amount of times of people quarantining and staying inside and stuff like that, where you've gotten to this point where some people now started self-isolating too soon. And I feel like that's going to have a negative impact, especially mentally, because you just can't stay home for that long. Yeah. And at some point, you're just going to be like, screw it. I'm just going to go out. I need to go out and do something. And that's going to cause another spike, too, if people don't, you know, listen to the rules and just stay home. You know, it's really bad. And, like, I love looking at history when it comes to these things too. So like we had the SARS outbreak back in 2002, and it had a 10% mortality rate, which is a good number. It's a strong number. A lot of people did die. However, I feel like in the States they don't take it as seriously now what it is, because back then there were only 27 cases in the United States of that SARS outbreak in 2002, and nobody died from it. So I feel like since they heard, oh, SARS again, because it's the same thing, like I said earlier, it's a SARS 2 pretty much, that, oh, it's just that, nothing's going to happen. But you're looking already at, I don't know how many deaths, about 500 deaths already in the United States. Yeah. The strongest country in the world, you know?
Yeah, you said it perfectly. It's like if one person could just say, everybody stop. But, you know, hindsight's 2020. That's a shitty pun because it's 2020. But, like, hindsight's 2020. But it's, you know, it's like World Trade Center, 9/11, Pentagon, you know, shit happened. Now, even 19 years later, when a plane goes up and it's not like squawking back and returning calls, F-15s come up on either wing, and it's like, we're going to blow you out of the fucking sky, you know? It's because we still don't fuck around with that. And it's because 9/11 was so bad. We don't take risk. We don't give a shit who's on the plane. We don't give a shit which company is going to have to deal with this. Right now, you're not going anywhere except down. We haven't had anything like coronavirus with anyone alive right now. So unless someone's still alive from the 1918 Spanish flu or 1920 Spanish flu, we don't have anything in recent memory. You almost kind of need it.
Yeah. So I agree, but the thing is the 1918 Spanish flu. We also had a flu recently in 2009, the swine flu, H1N1, and I think the Spanish flu is H5N1, which is a whole. The H's and N's don't matter right now.
Okay.
But it is very interesting to anybody who loves science. It's really, really cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the Spanish flu, both of those, the swine flu and the Spanish flu, one thing about those two compared to this coronavirus, it's two completely different viruses. You know, the coronavirus doesn't cause the flu. The influenza virus causes the flu. And we know the flu. We know the flu. We know exactly how it works. We know exactly how it mutates. Really cool. We have a vaccine for it, which is not perfect, but works better than nothing. So I, as a healthcare professional, get it every year, and the people who are elderly and kids should also be getting it. In my opinion, I think everyone should be getting it, but it is just a very educational guess as to what the next flu might be, because they're just basically taking previous strains of the flu and trying to think of what kind of mutation it would be this year and make it. So that's why that's why some people say, oh, it doesn't work or whatever. Get it. That's my bottom line for that.
Okay.
But so we have antivirals for it. We have Tamiflu for the flu. We have a vaccine for the flu. The flu has been around for so long. We know what the flu is. We know how it works. Coronavirus. So it's really funny. Back in January, when this started to brew up a little bit more, my friends back in the States, they kind of messaged me and they're like, hey, did you hear about this new coronavirus? You know, it's killing everyone. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. The coronavirus causes the common cold. That's what I learned back in medical school. So there's rhinovirus and coronavirus. Those are the two that we heard, and we made a joke about it because of the beer. You know, it's very easy to remember.
Yeah.
Coronavirus causes the common cold.
Yeah. Until
this is a new strain. So you can compare it to some of the other ones. This is the 7th coronavirus now that affects, it's like a mutated form that affects humans. So let's go in order. So 3 big ones, right? You have SARS back in 2002. It came from bats, which then affected a civet, which is like a cat, which affected a person.
Okay.
Right? And then there was like a super spreader. One guy who got affected went to a hotel, spread it to a bunch of people, and from that hotel, everybody went back to their countries and spread it. And that's what happened. But it was more or less contained. You know, there was only about 8,500 deaths. Sorry, 8,500 people infected, about 800 deaths. Whereas now we're looking at 300,000 infected and 13,000 deaths. You know, this is much bigger.
Yeah.
And MERS, Middle East respiratory syndrome, coronavirus as well, contained in the Middle East, had a 35% mortality rate. But again, low numbers. So like you had 2,500 people infected with about 850 deaths. So that's why it was so high. We don't, and also they haven't tested everyone, so we don't know the exact number. Just like now, and that one went from bats again. Reservoir was bats, which then infected a camel, and then infected a human, and that's how it spread. And now it's a bat, which infected a pangolin, which is like an anteater type of animal, and then it infected a person, and then it spread.
It sounds like a story some kid would write in kindergarten with a crayon. A bat had it, and then this had it, and then this had it, and then it went to humans. The end. Like, that's what it sounds like. But all that said is, it's almost like we haven't been, anyone alive at least, we haven't had a big enough, those who suffer remember. When you get a sunburn or when you touch an oven, you don't do it again. Not because someone said you shouldn't do it. You're like, I remember that. I remember not take a shower or it's like, okay, you remember. It's almost like, and I don't mean to be one of those, edgy people like, we needed a pandemic. Shut up. Those are the same people that are just as scared as everyone else. It's almost like you almost can't, again, we should have shut down everything immediately. Sure. Sounds great. We also should have, made sure no one came and bombed Pearl Harbor. Again, hindsight's perfect. But there's almost nothing to base something like this on, right? If it came on the news that their 747 took off and that weren't responding, there would be no question. Everyone would be like, blow it out of the fucking sky, right? Because we've seen what happens. With this, and it's, again, like you said, we're big bad America. It's almost like, oh, it's over there, China, 1.39 billion people. That shit happens over there. It's China, whatever, And it's, and once it's here, even it's, well, do we really need a quarantine? Like, what's really going on? And it's like, we haven't had anything like this. It's like, okay, I get it. Coronavirus is bad. I get it. But really, we're going to shut down the highways. We're going to shut down the airports. Do you know how much that's going to affect my bottom line? And it's not until it starts happening on a national level and like March Madness is canceled that people are starting to be like, oh, fuck. Okay. And it's, hopefully we won't have another one, but I feel like if we do have another one, there will probably be a lot more ready to go, if you will. People would just be like, let's chill the fuck out. I hope.
Yeah.
But there was nothing like this.
Just because it's happened already so many times.
Yeah,
you have the Spanish flu, you have, all
but
these
again,
coronaviruses.
Like, I'm 29. Like, I barely remember the SARS. I remember it was like right after 9/11. I thought it was the same thing as anthrax. Like, I was 12,
Yeah. Same, exactly. I was the same age.
Yeah, so that's what I mean is like, we've had these before. We've had the Spanish flu. We've had, but it's also like we haven't had one. I mean, like us alive today with our global economy, our global society, everyone, borders, sure they exist, but I mean, everyone's going in between back and forth, and you got all these subways and metropolises like New York. You can take an A380, a double-decker jet, and fly 9,000 miles across the sea and watch a shitty movie while you do it. It's almost hard to be like, what? That's going to bring us down? Like, this isn't 9/11, It's kind of, but do you get what I'm saying? I'm not saying it's good that we don't have something, or I'm not saying we have an excuse. It's just like, I get why it took so long. And, thank God we're doing what we are now,
Yeah.
Except for all those spring breakers. Fuck them.
Don't even get me started with them.
Fuck them. Yeah,
there's so much to talk about it. Comparing it to there are some things that we did in history, like in the Spanish flu, for example. Like in Philadelphia, they did a big mess up. I remember too, like learning about the Spanish flu. They started hosting. By the way, just to put like numbers in retrospect, the Spanish flu killed about 675,000 Americans alone, and that's more than the amount of Americans killed in World War I, World War II, Iraq War, Afghanistan War, Vietnam War, and Korean War combined. So it's not that, like, I think Bill Gates said it best in that one lecture where war's not going to kill everybody. It's going to be a virus of some sort. But back to Philly really quick. Yeah. So there was a parade that was supposed to go on while this Spanish flu pandemic was happening. There was supposed to be a parade to like lift morale and they wanted to like let people buy bonds and stuff like that. And a good amount of people were like, we shouldn't have this parade. No, like it's not a good idea. But the government was like, let's do it anyway. Don't worry about it. It's just a flu.
Yeah.
They did that, and then 3 days later, 31 hospitals in the area didn't have any more beds.
Jesus Christ.
And that happened already.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And we're not learning from that.
Exactly.
You know? That's what's really frustrating.
No, I get you. Just and like I guess from someone from like my standpoint, being like just so you know, like so everything I'm arguing, like I completely agree with you. I'm being the devil's advocate for non-medical professionals like myself, whoever.
Absolutely, yeah. I like to debunk it all.
Yeah, we have just I'm looking at it from people with my life where it's like I go to the gym, I look at Reddit, I look on Instagram, I get turned down by girls hotter than me. I'm hoping I have a job. I'm anxious. You know, you're not thinking about like the history of infectious diseases and like viral morphology and what horizontal gene transfer, and you're not thinking about that. So like Spanish flu, it's like it happened, but it's like when did it happen? Like the tail end of like World War I, if I'm correct. And it's like World War I, it's like you look back and the one in black and white where there's no sound even in the videos, and they had biplanes, they had the shit from the Wright brothers, and most of the stuff was being carried by horses, and it's like World War I, like that's not even World War II, that's before the Roaring '20s. It's so long, and you look at it and you go, well, of course it spread. They're in the trenches because everyone knows how bad trench warfare was. And for me, like again, so like you look at it and it's like, yeah, the Spanish flu is bad, but it's almost like that should happen. Like it seems so long ago, and it's like, yeah, that's also like, where they just used to bury the bodies into the walls of the trenches. It's like, well, yeah, of course that shit's gonna happen. It's so from someone from Knight's standpoint, I have a biology degree, so maybe I shouldn't have this standpoint, but like that is my standpoint. Is like I get where it can sort of fade into the past, just like I don't know, like invasions happened, but it's like we don't look at it the same because it's like no one's launching catapults today, So it's even though it's this even though on a biological timeline, 100 years is nothing. It's nothing. It's very easy to go, well, yeah, it was all in black and white. It's horses. It's World War I. It's 10 years before the Depression. It's Hitler just finished serving in the war, and it's like it was World War I. You're thinking 1918. It's when Babe Ruth left the Red Sox, like, right? So you kind of look at it and you go, well, of course that used to happen back then. Just like, yeah, back when penicillin was a big thing, and then came microwaves. It's very easy to go, that was then, but it's not a human creation where, yes, that was a long time ago, and things like dumb bombs from biplanes aren't a worry anymore because we have radar. In terms of biology, we are largely the exact same. Sure, medicine is increased or advanced, but that is still just in the mind. It seems like forever ago, but in terms of like biological applications to an interconnected global society, 1918 is yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it just like after spending time, as an American living in Poland, it was funny because like everybody, they kind of make fun of Americans in a lighthearted way, in the sense of like they would show me like an old house, and he'd be like, "This is 100 years old. I know for you that's ancient, but we have churches that are thousands of years old, by the way." So it's just like, so but you're what you just said, absolutely. That makes absolute sense, and it's one of those things too. It's a lot of people. There are still people on the internet where they're calling this like a hoax, and I think it's because they don't see it. Yes, it's not it's not their neighbor's dead. It's it's like they're no one very close to them. They don't see it. Yeah, your next door neighbor or anything like that. If they just walked into a hospital and saw what was going on there, it's like in my hospital right now. They're completely, even though I haven't been there in a while for the past 2 weeks. They're completely reorganizing the hospital now. They're making basically a wing for COVID patients and a wing for clean patients, right? Clean meaning not having COVID. And they're just completely shifting everything to be prepared for the numbers, because the numbers are rising here. The numbers, like I keep looking at the government website of Scotland right now. And I know that the numbers that they have confirmed on that website are the ones in the hospital, because they're only testing the ones that are in the hospital. It says it all on the website, so I'm free to say it.
Yeah.
But because like I said earlier, if you're home and you have symptoms and you're fine, stay home. That's it. But if you're sick, come to the hospital. And I'm seeing 34 patients in my area. And I'm just thinking about my hospital. It's not like a major hospital, so I'm just thinking holy crap, we're gonna run out of space soon.
Yeah.
And I don't know what we're going to do when that happens.
Yeah, that's what's terrifying. Is well, you do know what you're gonna do when that happens, but it's almost that's too bad a reality to just talk about. Nobody
wants to.
No one wants to, but I mean, it's kind of it's like. Go to the right, go to the left. That's what it is. I mean, it's it's in a 2020 hospital, but it's very much Nazi sorting. It's you're able, you're not.
Unfortunately,
and that's what it is, and that's the terrible.
We're going to do our best. We're going to try to get
as
many extra beds, and like what Italy was doing to just have cots outside, in like a gymnasium or something. Like, people, you just need to stay here. We're using this building now. Since we have so many empty buildings now, we might have to. I don't know what the government's planning to do, but some contingency plan is going to have to put into place very soon. I feel like in terms of how long this is going to last, like I said, I don't know, but the number of deaths each day. Let me put some numbers as an example for you, because I've been tracking how many deaths per day, because it's important. Last week, the 14th of March, right? The number of deaths worldwide was 404. Today, at this time, it's 1,568. You're looking at a 4 times increase in a week, and that's terrifying. And if it keeps going up this way, this is the one virus where the deaths have increased the fastest out of any other pandemic so far. So those are scary numbers to hear, But the thing that's not scary is that it's totally manageable if people just cooperate.
Maybe it will. That's why I just keep thinking. It's like. I'm not into any woo-woo, positive vibes, everybody. But I just keep thinking, I just keep trying to imagine how great it will be. Just picture it on the news and it's the curve flattening. I just keep trying to and no, thinking about it doesn't do anything. But at least for me, I'm that's stay home because of that. It can happen. Don't just go, we're stuck at home. Be how great is it going to be when we finally get the news that it is subsiding? Maybe it's tomorrow, maybe it's in 6 months.
Just what you're doing is amazing. Telling your friends, hey, get out of the bar, go home. That's awesome.
Oh, I'm not even doing it well. One of my friends, David, fucking shout out David. David H. He's just going ham on motherfuckers. He's just, I have physician friends who are self-isolate, stay home, and David's jumping on there. Fuck you, go home. Just he's taking names, and it's important. It's really important. And in terms of the treatment that we have now, the only thing we can do is let me show you on the medical standpoint what it looks like taking care of a patient that's got COVID. Yeah.
So let's say you have a cough and a fever, right? So now you're coming in and we're treating you just by vitals. So we're taking your vitals all the time. We're taking your blood pressure, your heart rate, your temperature, and your respiratory rate, how fast you're breathing, and how much oxygen you have in your blood. And we always aim to get between 94 and 98 or even 100%. 100% is not ideal. That's a whole metabolic reason I don't want to get into, but 94 to 98 grand percent. What happens is the virus is going to get into your lungs and it gets connected to a receptor in your lungs, and it's going to start destroying the cells of your lungs while replicating itself. That's why it's so easy to spread, because they just have to cough once and it'll go somewhere because they're replicating so much. So now you're looking at a patient who's got deteriorating lungs where fluid starts getting into the lungs. And the way that oxygen goes into the lungs, the best way to show it is imagine this side is the lung and this side is the blood vessel, and you have a tiny space in between. And the air, there's a few holes in between, right? Where the air from the oxygen are able to get into the blood vessels. And then the blood has the oxygen and transports it to vital organs, your kidneys, brain, stomach, wherever. When the lungs gets damaged, their fluid accumulates. And that space in between starts getting bigger and bigger. And now the oxygen is going to have a much harder time getting into the blood. And then the blood's not going to have any oxygen to transport it into your vital organs and such. So what we do is we give you oxygen, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So we give you oxygen. It's like we'll start looking at the monitor, like that 94 to 98% that I was saying on your pulse oximetry. If it starts dropping, let's say you're at 90%. All right, let's give you 3 liters of oxygen. All right, cool. We're at 94% again. We're fine. That drops. All right, let's give you 7 liters of oxygen. Okay, 15 liters of oxygen. That's the highest amount we can give it to you on a normal day. If you can't manage to get to that range that we want with 15 liters of oxygen, now we have to start thinking of different ways of giving you oxygen. That's the ventilators. That's when they come in, and other non-invasive ventilation management treatments and stuff like that. And that's all there's nothing we can do to them. It's not like a bacterial infection, not like a strep throat, where we can give you some antibiotics and you'll be fine in 7 days. Virals are much harder to deal with. Unfortunately, we don't have too many antivirals. We do have vaccines, so that's why it's so important. By the way, I'm not hearing anything from the anti-vaxxers at the moment
because they're all dead.
It's like it's funny because they're trying to make a coronavirus vaccine. They haven't said anything like you shouldn't be making one because it's dangerous. I'm sure they're probably wanting one as well too.
Yeah,
that's a whole nother argument I don't want to get into.
We're not even going to give
my heart's already racing.
We're not even going to give. We're not going to give them a spotlight or a platform. Fuck them.
So the best thing we could do for these patients is just to give them this high flow amount of oxygen, whatever we can, to the point where we're going to give them all the oxygen we can, and that we still can't get to that saturation point that we want. Now all those vital organs, your kidneys, your heart, your intestines, your stomach, your brain, are not getting the oxygen it needs, and you start developing a multi-organ failure and you suffocate, and that's how they die. And we can't give you more oxygen than what we have. That's the only thing we can do right now. Plus finding a vaccine and stuff like that to develop antibodies for you to fight off the coronavirus. But that's not a 1, 2, 3 day quick fix. That takes time for your immunity to develop antibodies to fight off the virus, because this is a new thing. It takes time. That whole vaccine thing. That's why when people say, "Oh, I got the flu shot and got sick the next day," that's just because you got the flu before. It just took a while for it to grow, replicate, and then attack your system. Like, you already had the flu, unfortunately.
Yeah.
The flu vaccine does not cause the flu whatsoever. It's an inactive vaccine, and I don't know what kind of vaccine this coronavirus is going to be. But again, that's the only way we can save these people is giving oxygen. And it's just, we get to a point where that's not enough, and they just simply can't handle it and they die. And that's the scary thing to do, because it's scary to watch that. And it's even worse now, since this is so infective, the family can't even come to see their loved ones die because they have to be self-isolated.
God.
It can be scary.
Yeah, but it should be. You're doing the right thing. It shouldn't be like, if someone's freaking out, it should be like hey, it can be managed. But for everyone that's not freaking out, you need to freak them out, because it's the only way. It's those who suffer. Remember, when you feel that pang of fear, nothing else drives one faster than fear. Nothing else will get something happening.
Unfortunately,
no amount of coffee or Adderall will make you study for a test like fear will. Take an organic chemistry at 3 a.m. You don't need a Red Bull. You're like, I'm gonna fail this class. I am wide awake. Don't talk to me. You said you had to go in 40 minutes, and it's been 45. So I don't want to keep you, but if by any chance you want to keep talking, I would love to keep talking, because this is fucking
I can give you another 20 minutes.
Woo! All right. Cool. Because this is fucking. I'm entranced right now. So what is happening with Z-Pak and what is it? Chloroquine, the malaria drug? Is there any hope in that?
So Z-Pak, because that's a brand name. I just need to see what that is really quick. What is a Z-Pak? A Z-Pak is...
It's an antibiotic, correct?
Azithromycin. So it's an antibiotic, yeah. So antibiotics, I'll explain why antibiotics are sometimes good in a viral infection. I'll explain it. There is a reason why some doctors give antibiotics for a viral infection. There is a reason. I'll get to it. They mentioned chloroquine, which is an anti-malarial drug. They mentioned remdesivir, which is for the Ebola virus. And they mentioned Coletra, which is the brand name of 2 HIV drugs that are used. So many doctors are trying to hop on and do these really quick studies, and that's one problem. These are quick, short studies that they're giving these drugs and seeing what works, and we're learning as much as, like what you said mentioned chloroquine. Like I probably learned it at the same time you did, because this information is so new, and we're taking it as it goes, and we're trying to take these things. And basically what they're saying is that some of these antivirals have some effects on the coronavirus and the way it can work against that as well. None of it is so promising that doctors need to like picking one and sticking with it. So they're using a combination of the source or stuff like that. There's no gold standard antiviral yet for the coronavirus. I don't know what they're doing with that. That's the pharmacists and the scientists working on that, and they're doing wonders as well. You know, me as a junior doctor in the front lines, my main job is to manage the patient and make sure their acute or severe condition becomes a more stable condition. That's my job right now, making sure they're okay. And I get the help from my senior doctors. They're always around. The National Health Service, I love it. It's a very, very great system here in the UK. They're doing a fantastic job trying to manage this.
Shout out NHS.
With that said, with the treatment, it's so hard. And now going back to the antibiotics, why is that used? And like, I know like some med students would even say like, why give an antibiotic if someone has the flu? That doesn't make sense. So for people, let's just take the coronavirus as an example. Let's say somebody who's a bit elderly gets, or even somebody our age. Everybody's different. That's what's great and what sucks about medicine. Yeah. Everybody's different, and everybody needs like individual care in a sense, because if you were to get infected by the coronavirus, who is to say if your body doesn't react to that in a really severe way compared to somebody else in a mild way? So your body, your immune system now, you have your white blood cells, you have all these different kind of cells, you have T cells, natural killer cells, neutrophils, macrophages, and so on. And they're going to see this weird foreign intruder in your body. And sometimes, for the most part, for the majority of people, the immune system has a nice organized attack of how to take care of it and get rid of it. Whereas some people, unfortunately, and there's no way of telling who, their immune system kind of goes nuts. And they're like, everybody, get in here in guerrilla style. Let's attack this invader, right? Yeah. So now there's this cytokine storm, we call it. It's all these little products that the white cells make, and they go and attack this virus so much that now your body is susceptible to a bacterial infection.
Okay.
Because your immune system is now weak because it's focused on this so much.
You're pulling everyone from the Western Front and putting them on the Eastern Front.
For example, and now you got this bacterial infection coming in, and this is called a superimposed bacterial infection, where you're getting a bacterial infection on top of a virus. Because just because you have one infection doesn't mean you can't get others at the same time. Jesus. Your body can take a few, like I saw one patient that's had, when we did a throat swab, a normal throat swab, it can detect up to like 10 different viruses. And there was one person I saw that had 4 at once. And, it's like, and basically we told them, you just got to ride it out.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing we can do. Like, you have to ride out this next 7 days and hopefully it gets better. It's going to get worse before it gets better, but that's just the way it is. So now that's why some doctors give antibiotics, which are for bacterial things, on top, if they know that you have a virus and if they know that you're probably going to be affected, if they know your body well enough from previous viral infections, they'll give you an antibiotic to prevent you from getting a bacterial infection on top of the viral infection.
Okay.
So that's what they do. So maybe the Z-Pak is azithromycin. That's what they're probably, I don't know what they're giving out in the States. But in terms of treatment, it's all supportive. It's just like, helping them breathe.
Yeah.
Just giving them the tools for them to breathe. We're going to have machines breathe for them. And another thing in terms of getting oxygen everywhere is like ECMO, for example, like or bypass, where we basically take the blood. It's way too extreme. You know, it's for very severe measures for like a young person, I would say. I don't think they would ever use it on a very elderly person. And this we even have less of in the world. But basically what we do is we hook up some tubes to one massive artery. We take all the blood out, and it goes through a machine that oxygenates the blood in the machine. So basically you have lungs externally.
Yeah.
And then we shoot it back into the body so that all the lungs, the organs that you have stay alive.
You can't do that for every person, though. That's
absolutely not. No way. You need a whole team for that.
Yeah, you're a 90-year-old billionaire and you got money to blow. Like, you know, it's
I don't know if they would even do it for a 90-year-old billionaire. Maybe a 40-year-old billionaire.
Well, I mean, if you're a 90-year-old billionaire and you're just paying the doctors, you're like, "What's your salary? I'll give you 3 decades of your salary today." Like,
yeah.
You could do that, but yeah, it's the point being is like it doesn't matter how extreme the treatment can get. Like, okay, we found out this thing can work. We just got to do this, that, and the other thing. It's like, okay, it is physically possible, but it's like, okay, that works for like one person with a team of doctors in like a tier 1 medical center or a trauma center. It's like, okay, what about the other 300
controlled environments? Yeah.
What about the other 300,000? It's so. Are we going to see an evolution? Or one thing I want to say about the medication is, so we don't, obviously there's not the phase 1, 2, and 3 trials, which, you know, we can do with other, I guess, FDA approved drugs, because you're not normally at a crunch for, you know, this shit's taking over exponentially. Is there some accepted, is there a much wider of accepted margin of error for combinations of drugs right now than otherwise? Because it's like, hey, we don't have data on this, we're learning it real time. There is no time though, so it's like this might work.
Yeah,
but it's like we kind of gotta it's like, fuck it, do it live. Like that's what we're doing right now. We're going Bill O'Reilly as a planet right now, like Bill O'Reilly pharmacology style. Fuck it, do it live. Take this, take that, because that might kill you, but we know for a fact if we don't give you anything, you're gonna die. So it's literally like, you know, I got a 3, a 7, and a queen, and it's like I'm going all in. But it's like
go all in and try it out.
But,
I unfortunately don't know the answer
to
that. Like I know that there's 4 steps in total, right? Like in terms from what I've studied, they have to test it and, you know, see if it works and prove that it works in studies. That with a control and a placebo, it's got to be, you know, double blind, randomized with a placebo control as well. And like, I know when the Ebola outbreak happened, I don't know what year that was. That wasn't too long ago. I think 2012 or 2013 or something.
Oh yeah, that was not that long ago. That was like 2 years before Zika, right?
And they got like a vaccine in like record time. I remember.
They should almost make like a vaccine crowdfund, because it'd be like, hey, all these big corporations, like, hey, like you don't have to do it, but like, if you want your company to stop tanking, something that has nothing to do with medication, Apple, Ford, be like, hey, you don't have, like, obviously you're not Pfizer or GlaxoSmithKline, but like, no one can do anything and buy your products. So like, hey, it's in your interest to get this vaccine out. Like, here's your crowdfund. Like, you might want to dump in $100 million, because that $100 million might prevent you from losing $100 billion. You know, that's an idyllic idea, but it's like, you know, it's a romantic, oh, the world's going to come together. But I mean, you know, maybe what you need to do is break it down into, you know, the language that these people speak. And it's like, you know how your bottom line's here? You're going to have a new bottom line, and it's going to be down there. So no, there's no reason why you should give $1 billion to develop this vaccine, except for you're going to lose $10 billion if you don't, you know? Yeah. It's almost like coronavirus. It's like the mafia. And it's like, you're going to pay me for your protection. Like, I don't need your protection. Yeah, you do. You know, you need protection from me.
I'm glad you brought up crowdfunding, because there's a lot of that going on. For example, in Poland, as great as they're containing the virus as much as they can, they've had 5 deaths so far, and they've had that for about a week now. They're doing a fantastic job. In terms of cases, I can't remember off the top of my head, but their resources in terms of masks are extremely low.
Yeah.
To the point where friends of mine are getting emails asking them if they have any masks to bring them to the hospital. Because,
like
for example,
from school or something.
there's just no masks. There's no surgical masks even. Like,
probably grabbing them from college too. Sorry to interrupt. College like labs. Like, hey, you don't need this. You don't need. You're not using the fume hood. The campus is evacuated. You know.
Yeah, and I saw a fundraiser where they were able to raise in dollars. It would be $30,000 they raised in a crowdfunding just to buy masks for a company to produce a lot of masks. I don't know necessarily why they needed to crowdfund in a crisis like this. These should just be kind of giving out for free.
Yeah.
But it's great to see that people are for healthcare. Like, we need to stop this here, the mask. We don't want, like, because if your doctors get sick, you're going to have less doctors at the hospital, and then who's going to take care of these patients? Like,
exactly. It's like if someone has a gun on a plane, what's the most damage they can do if they have one bullet? Shoot one person, there's one death. Shoot out the window, depressurize the cabin, you can maybe kill a couple more. Shoot the pilot, you're going to kill everyone. It's like, if coronavirus gets to these healthcare professionals, there's no flattening the curve. It's like we're putting a bike pump into it, and we're like, just, you know, it's literally just like, fucking fire the nukes. Like, you know, save the suffering. It's
just to kind of like close it off slowly,
yeah.
It's a very serious time. It's not a time to panic, like I said earlier. It is a serious time, so we don't want to underreact to over this as much as we don't want to overreact.
Yeah.
But just to follow the rules. There are a lot of government websites out there that are giving you the right stuff. The WHO, the CDC, and whatever country you're listening from, whether it be Scotland, Poland, or wherever else, they have their websites to listen to their advice, to self-isolate, to social distance. Don't listen to people being experts on Facebook. I've seen some ridiculous things on there where it's like, if you drink boiling hot water, that's going to kill the virus. And I'm like, no, that's going to ruin your esophagus.
And that's going to clog the medical system. That's going to
not the...
exactly. It's like, fuck it. Leave those up. Let Darwin take care. Like,
it's insane. And I'm seeing people being scumbags as well. They're taking surgical masks and they're reselling it and advertising it as N95s just to make a quick buck. Don't do all of that. Just follow the advice of professionals. Yeah. Call your doctor if you have any questions. That's the most important person you should be calling, not your neighbor or Facebook friend from some other country. They don't know.
Essential oils. Essential oils. Get your energy crystals. Did you know that this is sapphire? This has anti-coronavirus. The ancients used to use this. Like, oh, Jesus. Get your coronavirus crystals, your essential oils, and read your heart chart. I don't know. But, so we got like 5 minutes, and then, like I said, I can talk for 5 hours, but I know you got to go. What's, you have a podcast, right?
Yes. Thank you for mentioning it.
No, dude, I'm gonna plug your podcast as well, dude, because you're doing God's work. We need to get you out there. Yours is what? The patient will see you now. The patient will now see you.
Yeah, the patient will see you now. It's a play on words of the doctor will see you now.
I like it.
Thank you. And I'm having a lot of fun with it. Yeah. Whether there's people listening or not, I got some cool stories from it already. But basically, I talk about a certain disease. I've got a few episodes up now. I've got like breast cancer, multiple sclerosis, a whole bunch.
Detached retina, that was one of them.
Yeah, retinal detachment. Yeah, and then I talk about it basically in the most simplest terms possible for everyone to understand.
Sure.
And then I interview somebody who has had it or is living with such a chronic condition. And basically it's putting a twist on seeing the patient's perspective of what it's like living with the disease. Because even though I'm a doctor, like, I know what it's like in the textbooks. I know how to treat it, manage it. And when you're unfortunately, when you're really busy in a hospital, you unfortunately don't have the time to see the person as a whole, see the patient as a whole. You kind of just see the disease and like, I need to get you stable and out of the hospital to treat the next person, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Where there are times where it's like that. There are times where you get to sit down and talk to them, which is nice, but there are just times where it's impossible. So this was a chance for me to like sit down with each person and see what their life is like and what's changed. And I get into uncomfortable situations too, like that you don't necessarily talk to your doctor about, like what's sex like with endometriosis or MRKH syndrome. You know, like it's painful for them, and why they don't want to talk about it, and what are some things. Somebody with alopecia, a person who doesn't have any hair, and he says it's helped him a lot that there's now a celebrity, Anthony Carrigan, that's on Gotham and stuff. Or it's like, oh, it's really cool. You know, it's really nice to hear their side of everything, and it teaches me, because they're actually the experts of their disease, because they're living with it day in and day out, so they know what works and what doesn't. And it's really cool, and it's helped some people who have this one woman. She reached out to me, and because she said that her son was diagnosed with alopecia, and she didn't know anything about it. She's just happens to be she listens to podcasts, and she found this one, and she learned a lot, and now she knows what to expect in the future, that it's not so bad. It's very manageable, and you know, there's a way out of it. There's a light. You know, you don't have to panic, and that's a huge plus for me, and I get really happy when I hear those types of stories.
That's amazing. Yeah, dude. That's amazing, man. It's what you're doing is just breaking it down. Like you did with coronavirus, but right now with your podcast, you're doing it with tons of stuff. It's god damn, man. It's So for anyone listening, I'm gonna put that. I'll put that in the description. I'll put it I'll pin it as a comment. I'll do all that good stuff. And what I'm gonna do is I normally upload everything in like the highest quality I can, but it takes like 9 hours. I'm gonna. The audio won't degrade. I'm literally gonna compress this video to like 144p and upload it just so I can get it up like today. And I'm gonna just so I can put it online and be like, here's a doctor telling like everyone what the fuck to do, because this has helped me enormously. It's scared the shit out of me, but it's also made me realize like it's like panic but don't panic. You know, it's like it's perfect. So I'll probably upload it again at a later date with higher definition. But for anyone right now, if they're questioning why does it look like it's filmed on a Game Boy, it's because uploading in 720p, 60 FPS, that takes 6 to 7 hours. If I do it 144, I'll probably get it up in under an hour. And right now, with an exponential curve, time is of the essence. And again, I only have 100 subscribers, but that could make a difference. And that's why I'm doing this. Dude, thank you so much. I don't know if... So I saw your name on Skype, but I'll cut it out of this. I don't know if you want me to put that up. If you just want to be Dr. Bob.
Go for it.
Oh, yeah, sure. Tell me your name.
If anybody wants to find me or ask me any questions, but no medical advice, that's illegal. I can't do that just to anybody. But if you have any questions about this coronavirus, or if you want to be a guest on the podcast, on my podcast as well, it's thepatientwillseeyounow@gmail.com. And also, if you want to reach out to me personally, I have a Twitter. I try to be active on it, not so much, but I try. Very responsive on the email, but you can find me on Twitter at Robert_Bednarz. That's BEDNARZ. You can find me there. And Tommy, thank you so much. This is a lot of fun. Just kind of like really talking about it.
Dude, thanks for coming on, man.
It's really great. I had a lot of fun, and you asked some really good questions. And it's what you're doing. You posting this, as long as like even 5 people hears it and they spread it to 5 people,
that's all we need.
So important.
That's all we need.
It's a huge plus. Thank you, Tommy.
Well, hey, man. Dude, you tell me when you send me an email. I send you my number. Shoot me a text. When you want to do it again, you tell me and I'll make it happen. Because right now, I will bump anyone. Because if you want to come on and we can get good coronavirus information out there, I will bump the people I have lined up. I'll be like, hey, bro, would love to talk about nuclear reactors, which I'm talking to tomorrow. Coronavirus. So... yeah, dude, you tell me when you want to do it again, and I'll have you on again. And, man, thanks for doing it. I hope you had a blast. I try to make it...
thank you so much.
Try to make it casual. This is a record. This is the only episode that I've never taken a bathroom break in. So, good vibes. All right, bro. Thank you so much for doing it. I will send you a link. Godspeed. Stay quarantined, and keep fighting the good fight, brother.
Take care, man. See you later.
Peace.
Bye.